The stars had been quiet for 20,000 years. Commander Krixtal floated in the crystal chair of his exploration vessel, watching the endless void through the transparent dome. His crystalline body caught the light from distant suns and scattered it in rainbow patterns across the bridge. The Vorthak had been exploring space for longer than most species could remember, but even they had never seen anything like what waited ahead. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," called out Navigator Veltar from her station. Her voice carried the musical tones that all Vorthak used when excited. "The sensors show a massive object, but it's not moving. It's just sitting there." Krixtal turned his attention to the main display. The object was huge, easily the size of a small moon, but shaped like no natural formation he had ever seen. It was long and angular, with sections that looked like they had been built rather than formed by nature. "How long has it been there?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. But the metal shows signs of extreme age. Our computers estimate it's been drifting for at least 20,000 years. 20,000 years. That was significant. It was exactly the amount of time since the Great Silence, when an entire species had simply vanished from the galaxy without explanation. The Federation kept records of that time, though most people preferred not to think about it. Dr. Yelnara, the expedition's expert on ancient cultures, moved closer to the display. Her insect-like features showed the curiosity that made her such a good researcher. As a Zephyrian, she had compound eyes that could see details others missed. "The design doesn't match any known technology," she said, studying the readings. "But there are markings on the hull. Strange symbols that look almost primitive. Can you read them?" Krixtal asked. "Some of them. They appear to be letters from an old language. I can make out USS and what might be Liberty. But Commander, if I'm right about what this is, we need to be very careful." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the stories, even if they tried not to believe them. 20,000 years ago, there had been another species in the galaxy. They called themselves humans, and according to the old records, they had been dangerous, violent, unpredictable. The Federation had been much smaller then, and humans had controlled dozens of star systems. Then one day they were simply gone. All of them. Their planets were empty, their ships abandoned. No one knew what had happened to them, and most people were happy they had disappeared. "Sir," came a nervous voice from the communications station. "The object is powering up." Krixtal felt his crystalline heart skip a beat. "What do you mean, powering up?" "Energy readings are increasing. It's like something inside is waking up after a very long sleep." On the main screen, lights began to appear along the hull of the ancient vessel. They started small and dim but grew brighter as they watched. Soon entire sections of the ship were glowing with a soft blue light. "Should we retreat?" asked Veltar. Before Krixtal could answer, their communication system crackled to life. Static filled the bridge, followed by a voice speaking in a language none of them recognized. The words were harsh and alien, nothing like the musical tones of the Vorthak or the clicking sounds of the Zephyrians. Dr. Yelnara worked frantically at her translation device. "It's the same language as the markings," she said. "But it's so old, the computer is having trouble with it." The voice continued speaking, and gradually the translation began to work. Words appeared on their screens in Federation Standard. "This is Captain Jake Turner of the United States ship Liberty. If anyone receives this message, please respond. We are coming home." The message repeated several times, then stopped. The ancient ship continued to glow, but no more signals came from it. "Coming home," whispered Yelnara. "But they've been gone for 20,000 years. How can they be coming home now?" Krixtal studied the readings from the mysterious vessel. Despite its age, it was clearly functional. More than functional, it was showing energy signatures that their best scientists couldn't explain. Whatever technology powered that ship was beyond anything the Federation had ever seen. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Veltar. It was a good question. The Federation had protocols for first contact with new species, but nothing about contact with species that had vanished long ago. Especially species that had a reputation for violence. But something about the message bothered Krixtal. The voice had sounded tired, almost sad, not threatening. If these humans were truly as dangerous as the old stories claimed, wouldn't they have demanded surrender or issued threats? "Dr. Yelnara, what do the historical records actually say about humans?" he asked. The Zephyrian's compound eyes flickered as she accessed the Federation database. "The records are incomplete. Most of what we know comes from secondary sources. The Vorthak and Zephyrians had limited contact with them before the disappearance. The records describe them as aggressive and territorial, but also mention their remarkable ability to adapt and survive. Any mention of why they vanished? None. One day they were there, the next they were gone. Some theories suggest they destroyed themselves in a war. Others believe they simply left the galaxy, but no one knows for certain. Krixtal made his decision. We're going to make contact carefully. Veltar, move us closer but keep our shields up and weapons ready. Dr. Yelnara, prepare a response in their language. As their ship approached the ancient vessel, Krixtal couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to change the galaxy forever. The Federation had grown comfortable in the 20,000 years since humans vanished. They had built a peaceful society based on cooperation and understanding, but peace was sometimes fragile. And if the humans really were coming home after all this time, they would bring with them questions that no one was prepared to answer. The Liberty grew larger on their screens as they approached. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was scarred and damaged in places, but it had clearly been repaired many times with materials and techniques that didn't match the original construction. "Sir," said the communications officer, "I'm detecting multiple life signs aboard that vessel. Faint, but definitely there. How many? 4, maybe 5. They seem to be in some kind of suspended state." Krixtal nodded. If there really were humans aboard that ship, they had been asleep for 20,000 years. What would they think when they woke up to find their entire species gone, and the galaxy controlled by people they had never met? The answer to that question, he suspected, would determine the fate of everyone in the Federation. The cold was the first thing Jake Turner noticed. Deep, bone-chilling cold that seemed to reach into his very soul. His eyes opened slowly, struggling to focus on the dim lights above him. Everything felt wrong. His body was stiff, his thoughts fuzzy, and there was a taste in his mouth like old metal. "Computer," he croaked, his voice barely working. "Status report." "Captain Turner," came the familiar voice of the ship's artificial intelligence. "You have been in cryogenic sleep for 19,947 years, 3 months and 16 days. Welcome back." Jake sat up too quickly and immediately regretted it. His head spun and his stomach lurched. 20,000 years. That couldn't be right. The mission was only supposed to last a few months. They were chasing a signal, something important, but the memories felt like they were wrapped in fog. "Where are the others?" he asked. "Engineer Lisa Carter, Tactical Officer Ben Rodriguez, and Medical Officer Amy Foster are all in stable condition. They will wake within the next few hours." Jake forced himself to stand on shaky legs. The cryogenic bay looked the same as he remembered, but there were differences. New panels on the walls, equipment he didn't recognize, and a strange humming sound that definitely hadn't been there before. He made his way to the bridge, holding onto walls for support. The familiar corridors felt different somehow, like they had been changed while he slept. When he reached the bridge, what he saw through the main viewport made him stop and stare. Ships, dozens of them hanging in space around the Liberty. But they weren't human ships. The designs were completely alien. Some looked like they were made of crystal. Others had organic curves that seemed almost alive. All of them had weapons pointed at his ship. "Computer, are we under attack?" "Negative, Captain. The vessels appear to be maintaining a defensive posture. They have been trying to communicate for the past 6 hours. Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that Jake had never seen before. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with faceted surfaces that caught and reflected light. When it spoke, the words came through a translation system. "Captain Turner, I am Commander Krixtal of the Galactic Federation. We received your message and have come to make contact. Are you in need of assistance?" Galactic Federation? Jake had never heard of such an organization. Before he left Earth, there had been no unified galactic government, just individual species barely beginning to explore space. "Commander Krixtal," Jake said carefully, "forgive me, but I'm not familiar with your Federation. How long have we been asleep?" "According to our records, your species vanished from the galaxy approximately 20,000 years ago. You are the first humans we have encountered since that time." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. 20,000 years. His species was gone. Earth, his family, everyone he had ever known. All of it was dust. He gripped the captain's chair to keep from falling. "What happened to them?" he whispered. We don't know. One day humans were present throughout this region of space. The next day all your colonies were empty. Your ships were found drifting without crews. We assumed your species had either destroyed itself or simply left the galaxy. Behind Jake, the doors to the bridge opened. Lisa Carter stumbled in, looking as confused and disoriented as Jake felt. Her red hair was tangled and her engineer's uniform was wrinkled, but her green eyes were sharp with intelligence. Jake, what's going on? I feel like I've been hit by a truck. We've been asleep for 20,000 years, Jake said quietly. Humanity is gone. Lisa stared at him for a moment, then laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. 20,000 years? That's impossible. The cryogenic systems were only designed for a few months at most. Computer, Jake called. Display the ship's log from the time we entered cryogenic sleep. The main screen changed to show a recording of Jake himself, but he looked different. Older, more tired, with a look of desperate determination in his eyes. Captain's log. Stardate 2157.3. We've been following the signal for 6 months now, and we're getting close to its source. But something's wrong. The signal is changing us, all of us. Lisa says the ship's systems are evolving on their own, upgrading themselves with technology we don't understand. Ben thinks we're being watched. Amy is treating crew members for symptoms that shouldn't exist. The recorded Jake paused, looking directly at the camera. If we don't come back, if something happens to us, I want people to know that we tried. The signal promised answers, promised to show us something incredible. But I think it might be a trap. We're too far from home to turn back now. But I'm ordering the crew into emergency cryogenic sleep. Maybe when we wake up, we'll understand what's happening to us. The recording ended. Jake stared at the blank screen, trying to remember those final days. The signal had been so strong, so compelling. Every human in the galaxy had heard it, and most had answered its call. But he couldn't remember what had happened after they'd started following it. Captain, came Commander Crickstall's voice from the communication system. We would like to send a small team aboard your vessel. Our xenoarchaeologist is very interested in learning about human culture. I don't think that's wise, said a new voice harsher than the first. Another alien appeared on the screen, this one with insect-like features and multiple eyes. We know nothing about these humans except that they were violent and unpredictable. They could be dangerous. Jake was about to respond when Ben Rodriguez and Amy Foster entered the bridge. Ben looked around at the alien ships with the calm assessment of a trained military officer, while Amy immediately went to check on Jake's condition with the concern of a good doctor. Sir, Ben said quietly, our defensive systems are online, but I'm reading some very strange weapon signatures on those ships. And something else. Our own weapons have been upgraded. I'm seeing technology that definitely wasn't there when we went to sleep. Amy finished her quick examination of Jake and frowned. Your vital signs are normal, but there are some unusual readings. Your cellular structure shows signs of enhancement, as if something has been gradually improving your body while you were in cryogenic sleep. Lisa had been studying the engineering displays. The ship has definitely been modified extensively. Our power output is 10 times what it used to be, and I'm seeing systems I don't recognize. It's like someone or something has been upgrading us for 20,000 years. Jake looked at his crew, then at the alien ships surrounding them. The humans were gone, but somehow the Liberty had survived. More than survived, it had been improved, enhanced, turned into something more than it had been. Commander Crickstall, he said, you can send your people over. But I want some answers too. I want to know everything about what happened to my species and why this ship was left behind. Agreed, Captain. But I should warn you, not everyone in the Federation will be happy about your return. There are those who believe humans should stay gone. As Jake watched the alien ships maneuvering around his vessel, he couldn't shake the feeling that waking up was just the beginning. Whatever had happened to humanity, whatever the signal had been, he was starting to suspect that his crew had been left behind for a reason, and that reason was about to become very important. Dr. Yelnara moved through the corridors of the Liberty with careful steps, her compound eyes taking in every detail. The human ship was fascinating and terrifying at the same time. The walls seemed to pulse with a faint energy, and she could swear that some of the technology was watching her. This is incredible, she whispered to Commander Crickstall through her communication device. The ship isn't just old, it's been actively maintained and upgraded for 20,000 years. But by what? She entered what appeared to be an engineering section, where the human called Lisa Carter was working at a console. The red-haired woman looked up as Yelnara approached. "Finding anything interesting?" Lisa asked with a tired smile. "More than I expected. Your ship has technology that shouldn't exist. Some of these systems are beyond anything the Federation has ever developed." Lisa nodded grimly. "I've been trying to figure that out myself." "Look at this." She led Yelnara to a massive chamber in the heart of the ship. In the center was a glowing core that pulsed with blue-white energy. But it wasn't the energy that made Yelnara's breath catch. It was the way space seemed to bend around it. "What is it?" Yelnara asked. "I have no idea. It wasn't here when we went to sleep. The computer calls it a quantum core, but that doesn't tell me much. What I do know is that it's providing more power than our ship should be able to handle." As they watched, symbols began appearing in the air around the core. They glowed briefly, then faded, only to be replaced by new ones. Lisa frowned and pulled out a scanner. "The symbols are in a language I don't recognize, but they seem to be instructions or warnings. The computer keeps trying to translate them, but it's like they're written in mathematics instead of words." Yelnara studied the symbols with growing excitement. As a xenoarchaeologist, she had seen many ancient languages, but these were different. They seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. "Dr. Carter, I think your computer is right. These aren't just words, they're equations. Complex ones that describe the structure of reality itself." Before Lisa could respond, the symbols suddenly changed. Instead of mathematical formulas, they now showed clear images. Stars, planets, and space itself, but viewed from an impossible perspective, as if someone was looking down at the universe from outside it. "Computer," Lisa called. "Are you translating this?" "Affirmative. The quantum core is providing new data. Translating now." A voice began speaking, but it wasn't the ship's usual artificial intelligence. This voice was deeper, older, and somehow more real than anything else around them. "To those who find this message, know that humanity did not die. We evolved. The signal you followed was a test, a call issued by the Watchers, beings who exist beyond the boundaries of normal space and time. Most of humanity answered that call and transcended physical existence. We became something greater." Lisa and Yelnara exchanged worried glances as the voice continued. "But transcendence comes with responsibility. The Watchers guard reality itself against threats from beyond. We joined them in this duty, becoming protectors of all life in this dimension. The crew of the Liberty was chosen to remain behind, to serve as witnesses and warnings for what is to come." The images around the core changed, showing massive dark shapes moving through space. But these weren't ships or creatures, they were voids, empty spaces that seemed to devour everything around them. The enemy returns. The Devourers have found a way to pierce the barriers between dimensions. They consume entire realities, leaving nothing but emptiness behind. Your galaxy will need every species united if it hopes to survive. On the bridge, Captain Turner was having his own disturbing conversation with Commander Krickstall. The Federation had sent warships, and Admiral Zethrak of the Zephyrians was demanding that the Liberty surrender for inspection. "Admiral, with respect, we're not your prisoners," Jake said calmly. "We're trying to understand what happened to us as much as you are." Admiral Zethrak's insect-like features showed clear hostility. "Captain Turner, you represent a species known for violence and conquest. Your sudden return after 20,000 years is suspicious. I will not allow you to threaten the peace we have built." "Sir," Ben Rodriguez called from the tactical station, "the Admiral's ships are powering weapons." Jake felt a strange calm settle over him. The ship's systems seemed to respond to his thoughts, showing him options he somehow understood despite never having seen them before. "Ben, activate defensive systems." "Sir, which ones?" "I'm seeing weapon systems that definitely weren't in our original specifications. All of them. What happened next defied every law of physics the Federation knew. The Liberty simply faded from view, becoming translucent like a ghost. The Admiral's weapons fired, but the energy beams passed right through the human ship without causing any damage." "Impossible," Zethrak whispered. The Liberty reappeared, but not where it had been. It was now behind the Federation fleet, having somehow moved without traveling through the space between. In the quantum core chamber, the voice was explaining what had just happened. "The ship has been enhanced with technology from beyond this dimension. It can phase between realities, manipulate time and space, and defend itself against threats you cannot imagine. But these abilities come with a price. The crew is slowly changing, becoming bridges between the transcended humans and the material beings of this galaxy. Amy Foster, who had been examining the crew's medical data, felt a chill run down her spine. Lisa, you need to see this. Our DNA is changing. Slowly, but definitely changing. We're becoming something that's not entirely human anymore. Back on the bridge, Jake found that he could sense the emotions of the alien crews around them. Fear, curiosity, and in Admiral Zethrak's case, a burning desire to destroy what he didn't understand. Admiral, Jake said quietly, you're afraid of us because you think we're the same species that existed 20,000 years ago. But we're not. We're something new, and we're here to help you prepare for what's coming. And what exactly is coming? Commander Crixtal asked. Jake closed his eyes and somehow knew the answer. The end of everything unless we can stop it. At the edge of the galaxy, space itself began to flicker. Stars winked out of existence, not destroyed, but simply erased as if they had never been. The void that replaced them was hungry, and it was spreading. Dr. Yelnara, still standing in the quantum core chamber, watched the readings with growing horror. The barriers between dimensions are breaking down. Something is coming through. The voice from the core spoke one final time. The Liberty's true mission begins now. You must unite the galaxy's species and prepare them for a war unlike anything they can imagine. The transcended humans will return when the time is right, but until then, you are the bridge between worlds. As if responding to these words, Ben Rodriguez felt something change inside him. His understanding of the ship's weapon system suddenly expanded, and he could see tactical possibilities that shouldn't have been possible. Amy found that she could sense the life forces of every being on the nearby ships, understanding their fears and hopes as clearly as her own. Lisa discovered that she could communicate directly with the ship's enhanced systems, her mind interfacing with technology that existed partially outside normal space. And Jake realized that he could feel the presence of his transcended people, calling to him from beyond the stars. They were coming, but something was blocking their return, something that fed on reality itself and grew stronger with every world it devoured. The Federation had to choose: trust these changed humans and their impossible claims, or face the coming darkness alone. Admiral Zethrak made his choice first. All ships prepare to destroy the human vessel. I will not allow these creatures to threaten our way of life. But as his weapons powered up, Jake Turner smiled sadly and spoke a single word that somehow echoed across all dimensions. Home. The real war was about to begin. The first star system died while Admiral Zethrak was still arguing with the Federation Council. Jake Turner stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the long-range sensors with a heavy heart. Where the Kelton system had existed just hours before, there was now nothing. Not empty space, not even the background radiation that should have remained after a star's destruction. Just complete absence, as if that entire region of space had been erased from reality. How many people lived there? Amy Foster asked quietly, her new abilities allowing her to sense the magnitude of the loss even across the vast distance. 3 billion Vorthak colonists. Commander Crixtal replied, his crystalline features dim with grief. They were mining rare crystals in that system. Now they're gone. On the main screen, the Federation Council was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species argued frantically, their voices creating a cacophony of different languages and emotions. Admiral Zethrak stood at the center, still insisting that the humans were somehow responsible. The timing is suspicious, he buzzed angrily. These humans return after 20,000 years, and immediately our worlds start disappearing. This cannot be coincidence. Jake felt the familiar calm that had been growing stronger since they woke up. The changes in his body and mind were accelerating, and he could sense things that should have been impossible to know. Right now, he could feel the presence of his transcended people, trapped somewhere beyond normal space, struggling to break through barriers that shouldn't exist. Admiral, Jake said, his voice carrying across the council chamber despite speaking normally. We didn't cause this. We were left behind to warn you about it. Lisa Carter had been working frantically at the engineering station, trying to understand the readings from their quantum core. What she was seeing defied everything she thought she knew about physics. Jake, you need to look at this. The quantum core is showing us something. It's like a map, but not of space. It's a map of reality itself. The main screen shifted to show Lisa's readings. What appeared was a complex web of interconnected dimensions with their own universe as just one small part of a vast structure. But several sections of the web were dark, showing signs of damage. Computer, explain what we're seeing. Jake ordered. The ship's AI had been evolving along with its crew, and now its voice carried knowledge that seemed to come from beyond the ship itself. This is a dimensional matrix, showing the structure of reality. The dark areas represent regions where the barriers between dimensions have been compromised. The entities your people call the Devourers exist in the spaces between realities. They feed on existence itself. Dr. Yelnara, who had been studying aboard the Liberty for the past week, pointed to a section of the map where darkness was spreading like a stain. The damage is expanding. Each time they consume something, they grow stronger and can affect a larger area. At this rate, they'll reach the core worlds within days. Ben Rodriguez had been monitoring the Federation's military response. What he saw wasn't encouraging. Their fleets are moving to defensive positions, but they don't understand what they're facing. You can't fight something that exists outside normal space with conventional weapons. Jake closed his eyes and reached out with his enhanced senses, trying to contact the transcended humans. For a moment, he felt their presence more clearly. They were fighting desperately on multiple dimensional levels, but they were losing. Something was preventing them from fully manifesting in normal space. "They're being blocked," he said suddenly. "My people want to return and help, but the Devourers have found a way to interfere with the dimensional pathways." Amy had been studying the biological changes in the crew. What she found was both fascinating and terrifying. "We're becoming living bridges between dimensions," she announced. "Our DNA is incorporating quantum structures that allow us to exist partially outside normal space. But the process is accelerating. At this rate, we'll complete the transformation within hours." On the council display, Admiral Zethrak was rallying support for an attack on the Liberty. "These creatures are clearly connected to the disappearances. I say we destroy them before they can complete whatever plan they're carrying out." Commander Crickstall tried to argue for patience, but fear was winning. Several species were already agreeing with the Admiral. Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Ben, open a channel to all Federation vessels. Full spectrum broadcast. Sir, that will reach every ship and planet in this sector." "That's the idea." As the channel opened, Jake felt the weight of 20,000 years of history settling on his shoulders. His species had vanished, but they had left him and his crew behind for this moment. "People of the Federation," he began, his voice somehow reaching every corner of the galaxy. "I am Captain Jake Turner of the human vessel Liberty. You know us as the species that vanished 20,000 years ago. But we didn't die. We evolved." The quantum core pulsed brighter, and Jake felt knowledge flowing into his mind from sources beyond normal understanding. "My people answered a call from beings older than your civilizations, the Watchers, guardians of reality itself. Humanity joined them in protecting all existence from threats you cannot imagine. We became something greater than physical beings." The images on the screen changed, showing the transcended humans as they really were, beings of pure energy and will, fighting battles across multiple dimensions simultaneously. But now an ancient enemy has returned. The Devourers consume entire realities, leaving nothing behind. They exist between dimensions, and they're using the dark spaces to invade our universe. Your weapons cannot touch them. Your ships cannot even see them properly. Admiral Zethrak began powering his weapons, but something stopped him. Ben Rodriguez had somehow interfaced directly with the Admiral's ship systems, not to attack, but to show him the truth. "Admiral," Ben's voice came through the Zephyrian ship's speakers, "I'm sending you the real sensor data from the Kelton system. Look at it. Really look." The data showed the final moments of the star system. The Devourers hadn't attacked it. They had simply erased it from existence the way someone might delete a file from a computer. The 3 billion people who lived there hadn't even had time to realize what was happening. "This is what's coming for all of us," Jake continued. "But there is hope. The Liberty was left behind as a key. We can open pathways to bring the transcended humans back, but only if the galaxy species work together." Lisa had made a breakthrough in understanding the quantum core. "Jake, I think I know how to do it. The core isn't just a power source. It's a dimensional anchor. If we can get the other species to link their ship's power systems to ours, we can create a network that spans the galaxy. That network could serve as a beacon to guide the transcended humans home." Amy felt a surge of change in her body. The transformation was accelerating. "We don't have much time. I can feel myself becoming something else. Soon we won't be human anymore, not in any way that matters." Jake nodded grimly. "Then we better make this count." He turned back to the Federation Council. Admiral Zethrak, Commander Krixtall, leaders of the Federation, you have a choice. You can fight us and face the Devourers alone, or you can trust us and give your species a chance to survive. But decide quickly. Another star system just went dark, and the next one might be yours. In the depths of space, reality continued to unravel. The Devourers were coming, and they were hungry. The galaxy's survival now depended on whether former enemies could become allies in time to save existence itself. The end of everything arrived on a Tuesday. Jake Turner watched from the Bridge of the Liberty as the Devourers finally showed themselves. They came not as ships or creatures, but as wounds in space itself, dark tears in reality that grew larger with each passing moment. Where they touched, stars simply stopped existing. "Sir," Ben Rodriguez called from his station, his voice strained as he fought to control systems that were now more thought than technology. "The Federation fleet is in position. 60,000 ships from across the galaxy, all linked to our quantum network. It had taken 6 days to convince the galaxy's species to work together. 6 days while 17 star systems died. Admiral Zethrak had finally seen the truth when the Devourers consumed his homeworld, leaving not even debris behind. The Admiral himself was gone, erased along with everything he had ever known. Commander Krixtall now led the Federation forces, and his crystalline features showed the strain of commanding a fleet unlike anything in galactic history. Every ship was connected to the Liberty through quantum links, creating a network that spanned light years. "All ships report ready." Krixtall's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Turner, we're putting our faith in you and your people." Jake felt the weight of that faith, but also something else. The transformation was nearly complete. He could feel Amy, Lisa, and Ben changing alongside him, becoming something that existed in multiple dimensions at once. They were no longer entirely human, but they weren't yet whatever they were becoming. Lisa's status on the dimensional beacon? Engineer Lisa Carter had merged so completely with the ship's systems that her physical body was barely visible, more energy than matter. When she spoke, her voice came from the walls themselves. "The network is stable. Every ship in the fleet is contributing power to the quantum matrix. If this works, we should be able to create a pathway wide enough for the transcended humans to return." Amy Foster moved between the bridge stations, but her feet no longer touched the floor. As the ship's medical officer, she had become something like the crew's conscience, feeling the pain and fear of every being in the fleet. "The crews are terrified," she reported. "They can sense what's coming even if they can't see it clearly, but they're holding together." Ben had become one with the ship's weapons and defensive systems. His consciousness extended across the entire quantum network, giving him awareness of threats across multiple dimensions. "Contact in 30 seconds, he announced. "The Devourers are targeting the Altair system. 8 billion people." Jake closed his eyes and reached out to his transcended people one final time. They were there, just beyond the barriers of normal space, but the Devourers had created interference that prevented them from crossing over. "Unless... Lisa, can you overload the quantum core?" "That would destroy the ship," she replied, but there was understanding in her voice. "And probably kill anyone still fully physical. But it would also create a massive dimensional rupture, big enough for the transcended humans to come through." Amy turned to face him, her form shimmering between human and something else. "Jake, if we do this, we'll complete the transformation all at once. We'll become like them, but we'll lose who we are now." "I know." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew, his friends, the people who had followed him across 20,000 years. "But look what we've become anyway. We're not the same people who went to sleep on this ship. Maybe it's time to let go of what we were and become what we need to be." The Devourers reached the Altair system. Reality began to unravel as they fed, consuming not just matter and energy but the very concept of existence itself. The Federation fleet opened fire, but their weapons passed harmlessly through enemies that existed between dimensions. "All ships, focus your power through the quantum network," Jake ordered. "Everything you've got." The Liberty became a star unto itself as energy flowed through the network from 60,000 ships. The quantum core began to overload, space around it bending and twisting as dimensions pressed against each other. "Here they come," Ben warned. The Devourers turned their attention to the Federation fleet. Reality warped as they approached, and several ships simply ceased to exist. But the quantum network held, the linked vessels sharing the load as space itself tried to collapse. Jake felt the moment approaching. The dimensional barriers were weakening, but they needed one final push. Computer, transfer all command functions to the quantum matrix. Authorization Turner Alpha 7. Captain, the AI replied, its voice now carrying harmonics that existed outside normal sound. Implementing that command will complete the crew's transformation immediately. Are you certain? Do it. The change hit them like lightning. Jake felt his consciousness expand across multiple dimensions, his human perspective dissolving into something vast and eternal. He could see the war being fought by the transcended humans, battles across impossible geometries where thought became reality, and will-shaped existence itself. Lisa became the ship, her awareness spreading through every system and circuit. Ben merged with the weapons array, his tactical genius now operating on a cosmic scale. Amy transformed into something that could touch the souls of every being in the fleet, becoming their strength and hope made manifest. And through their sacrifice, the pathway opened. The transcended humans came home like a wave of living starlight. They were no longer recognizable as the species that had once walked on Earth, but their essence was unmistakably human, determined, protective, and absolutely unwilling to surrender. What followed was not a battle in any conventional sense. The transcended humans fought the devourers in spaces between thoughts, using weapons forged from the fundamental forces of creation. Reality itself became their battlefield as they drove the ancient enemy back toward the void between dimensions. Jake, now existing as something between human and cosmic force, found himself standing beside beings who had once been his species. One of them approached, its form shifting between energy and memory. Jake Turner, it said, and somehow he recognized the voice of his sister, lost 20,000 years ago. You did well. The galaxy is safe. For how long? Jake asked. Long enough. The devourers are contained for now, but they will try again eventually. That's why we need guardians in every dimension, bridges between the physical and transcendent worlds. Jake looked back at the Federation fleet. The ships were intact, their crews alive and staring in wonder at the cosmic forces that had just saved them. Commander Crixtal was trying to establish communication, but Jake's transformed crew existed on too many dimensional levels for normal technology to reach. What happens now? Jake asked. Now you choose. You can join us fully, become pure energy and will and help guard all of reality, or you can remain partially in the physical dimension, serving as protectors and guides for the galaxy species. Jake thought of the Federation crews, still trying to understand what they had witnessed. They would need time to accept what had happened, to learn how to detect and fight threats from beyond normal space. They would need teachers. I think we'll stay, he decided, at least for a while. The transcended human that had been his sister smiled, an expression that somehow existed in multiple dimensions. We hoped you would. The galaxy will need its guardians. One by one, the transcended humans faded back into their higher dimensions, returning to their eternal watch over reality itself. But they left behind gifts, knowledge, technology, and the promise that they would return if needed. Jake and his crew remained, forever changed, but still connected to the physical world. The Liberty became something more than a ship. It became an embassy between dimensions, a place where human and alien could work together to protect the galaxy. Commander Crixtal eventually managed to establish communication with them, though it required quantum translators and dimensional buffers. Captain Turner, the Vorthak commander said, his crystalline features showing a mixture of gratitude and awe. The Federation owes you a debt that can never be repaid. No debt, Jake replied, his voice now carrying harmonics from beyond normal space. Just a promise. We'll be here when you need us, all of us. And in the depths of space where reality was thickest, the Liberty kept its eternal watch. Its crew had given up their humanity to save the galaxy, but in doing so they had become something greater. The galaxy was safe. For now. But Jake Turner and his crew would be ready when the next threat emerged from the dark between the stars. They had become humanity's final gift to the universe. Guardians who would never rest, never surrender, and never stop protecting the countless lives that filled the cosmos. The ghost ship had returned home at last.